President, Ambassador Joy, my friends, I recognize the United Nations Coordinator in Rwanda, my brother, Azamia Diego. I recognize my younger colleague, Dr. Alexander Ezanago, Director of Policy Studies at ASG. The UNDP representative, Fatimata, I believe. I don't know who else at the table, but where I come from, we say all other protocols observed. That's how we say it in Nigeria. It's a great honor to say a few words to this event, the Rotary Club event here, Rotary Club of Kigali Seniors, and the installation of Ambassador Jordan Kingsley as the next president of the club. I'm really honored to have been asked and invited here. I am not yet distinguished enough to be a Rotarian. But when I grow up, I'm sure I'll arrive there. I am consoled by the fact that my wife is a Rotarian. So there is some relationship there. It's wonderful to be at Rotary. There are a number of jokes I've heard about Rotarians. I'll give you one. It says, why did the Rotary Club member bring a ladder to the meeting? Because he wanted to reach new heights of service. I found it was really very funny. But Rotary is a wonderful group of people, and I just want to say, what a noble group of men and women you are, all over the world. You find them the same, very high quality people, which is why I married one of them. But let me just say a few words about what I do, why I currently live in Rwanda, which I found very lovely and welcoming country. I am currently the President and Vice Chancellor of the African School of Governance, ASG. The ASG was founded by two African leaders. One is His Excellency President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, President of Rwanda. The other is His Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn, former Prime Minister of Ethiopia. So these leaders, working with a number of other African intellectuals, professional leaders, businessmen, including people like my brother, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, came together and founded this graduate level institution for the study of public policy and governance and leadership. It was decided to locate it in Rwanda, not because it's a Rwandan university, it's not. It's a private Pan-African university that faces out towards the rest of the continent rather than facing in towards Rwanda. But of course, Rwanda is part of Africa as well. And so the ASG was established because a number of people felt that leadership and governance are serious challenges for our continent. In fact, they are the most important challenges. We often think our problems are other things. Oh, we don't have enough money, so we look for aid, or we look for foreign investment. Oh, we don't have this or that. But even the conflicts, the poverty, all the risk factors we face in our continent, most of them emanate from the foundational problem that African countries have not yet been as successful. In the modern world, they were very successful. Pre-colonial, in organizing themselves. We had many kingdoms, including in this country, and they were very well organized. But something went wrong after the colonial experience. And African countries have had a lot of problems organizing themselves. And because they're not able to organize themselves, you find a lot of conflicts. People are excluded, and when people are excluded, they protest. If they're excluded badly enough, they fight. And when they fight, there are wars. And when there are wars, there are refugees. When there are refugees, there's economic destabilization and poverty all over the place. It all starts with governance. How do we govern our national spaces? And ASG was set up to create a new cadre of leaders in Africa. People who have a worldview, an African worldview, a worldview that says that we too are God's children and we are entitled to a place under the sun. We do not exist to be controlled by Westerners or by Easterners. We exist because we too have a right to thrive. Where I come from, sometimes you greet people in the morning, how are you? And they say, I'm surviving. See, this always tells me something. But if I say, how are you? And you say, I'm thriving, I like it. I always say to my colleagues, go big or go home. Go big or go home. I do not worship the God of small things. I happen to be a Nigerian, so you can understand. But beyond that, none of us should worship at the altar of the gods of small things. Africa had a major contribution, made a major contribution to global civilization. Writing, mathematics, these things were invented, if not first, then second, by an African civilization, Egyptian civilization, which at that time was ruled by Nubians as pharaohs. We forget these things. The only civilization that possibly invented writing and mathematics before that were the Sumerians, where today we call Mesopotamia, Iraq, and all that, people who lived there. But certainly these things were invented in Africa before they were invented in China. So you have the Sumerians, you have the Africans, you have the Chinese. This is the order, according to verified history. So when we remember this, we should be proud of who we are and not allow ourselves to be where we seem to be in the world today, where we have the poorest numbers of people in the world. And so at the ASG, we set it up as our task to train a new generation, equipped with the mindset, with the skills, with the knowledge to meet the challenges of the 21st century, to meet the opportunities of the 21st century. We not only have challenges, we also have opportunities. And we should also realize that. That requires a number of things. It means that we have to have a certain type of way of thinking. As a man or a woman thinketh, so are they. How we act, what we do, always comes from how and what we think. But we forget all too often, and we wonder, why are we having these problems we're having in Africa? We need to go back into our mind. The first order of business is the reinvention of the African mind. That's the first order of business. If you don't address the problem at this level, you're wasting your time. You're grasping at straws. And that's why at ASG, we were set up and founded with this vision that we start with the mind, the mindset. Then we go to the knowledge. Then we go to the skills. And let me speak briefly about the knowledge and the skills. In many countries in our continent, we are governed by people who are supposedly educated. Yes, they have degrees, many even PhDs. But many of them, many countries are not governed by people who studied how to govern. That is to say, they have not studied governance, they have not studied public policy, public administration, economics. These are the things that determine the wealth of nations and how prosperous countries are. Why is it that the countries of the West and the East are thriving? Because they have mastered technology. And technology is a mindset. We in Africa consume the products of technology, but we need to move to producing technology in Africa. So all these things are the elements of what we call a worldview, a model of the world, understanding why the world is the way it is. Where have we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? How do we intend to get there? What are the values and the value systems that will govern our society and our countries? What is the theory of action? That is to say, the strategy that we will use. What is the theory of knowledge, the knowledge system? I once said at the program we had last week, many of us have been to normal Western hospitals. Some of us have been to Chinese doctors who use acupuncture. Some of us may have been to India where they use Ayurvedic medicine. Some of us may have been to the Sankofas, African traditional medicine. These things are all knowledge systems. They're systems of knowledge, but they all arrive at the same place. So we have to think at this level for us to prosper. Why is the West wealthy and powerful? Because they have a worldview around which they organize their societies, which is three things: individual rights, institutions, rational scientific exploration. That's their worldview. What about China and the East? Very different. In China, they go with Confucian principles. That is to say, obligations before rights. They focus a lot on stability and order. They think very long term. A lot of us in Africa think about today and tomorrow. The Chinese think in 1,500 years' time. And in China, the community or the society is more important than the individual. So the point I'm trying to make is that worldviews are subjective things. Every society organizes itself as from its own culture and its own history. But if we implement those systems of thinking, those values, consistently enough and organize around them, it will create prosperity. It will create stability. So, I don't want to give a very long speech. There's something we call the 3 Ps. I qualify for 2, but not yet for the other, for the third. Never give a microphone to a professor. Never give a microphone to a politician. I once ran for president in Nigeria. And don't give a microphone to a pastor. I'm still aspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the honor. God bless you. We at the African School of Governance, we welcome your support. We welcome your collaboration with all professionals here in Rwanda and beyond. You know people. We have executive education for people like you. We just finished one last week where we had 20 African leaders, former prime ministers, chief justices, ministers, just name it. They were there. And we did our very first executive education program. They were blown away. We would love to offer you the same services. The first one we did was a proof of concept, so we sponsored it. But subsequent ones, no free lunch, even if you